Matthew Lee, Inner City Press. It sort of follows up on that, so I'll take it in a different direction. And thanks a lot for describing the political process and the agreement. I wanted to ask you about a different sort of the transparency of the mission. There's been a series of reports of sexual exploitation and abuse within the mission, back to Anders Campus, or even more recently, there have been pretty routinely, I would say about half of what they post on the CIA website of conduct and discipline are MINUSCA cases. And when I emailed them and asked, what happened, the Cameroonian peacekeepers, alleged rape, et cetera, there's no answers. And so I'm wondering, do you think this has undermined in any way the credibility of the mission? What do you think? Who decides how much information should be given and what action should be taken? And the same thing, just to follow up on that, there have been these Amnesty International reports about specific cases in which they accuse peacekeepers of standing aside as civilians have been killed, and there hasn't really been. One of them was back in October. Are you aware of what's happened with the investigation of that incident? There's another one where Mauritanian peacekeepers were photographed swinging the corpse of somebody who was never really explained. Maybe it was legitimate. I have no idea. If you could explain that one, it would be great. Thanks.
My dear friend, we do everything possible to combat misconduct. And this is, in MINUSCA, we have made it ground zero of the fight against sexual exploitation and abuse. We are the most transparent mission. We have established community-based mechanisms to ask the population to come forth and denounce any misconduct from our soldiers. And that's why we're having these numbers. And I'm very happy that in MINUSCA, it's a place where nobody can no longer hide for committing those crimes. And the backlog of crimes that we found in MINUSCA were mostly the fact of the, what we call the rehatting of troops that we inherited from the region. There were soldiers before we came in, and those soldiers had nothing to do with UN requirements. And of course we kept them, because what was the priority at the time was to save lives, to ensure that we stopped the bloodshed. And of course we did it with troops that were there, deployed on the ground. And those troops did not share UN values. They were not at all under a blue helmet. And we found ourselves managing this absolutely awful situation. But as we speak today, and I do agree with you, it is still unfortunate that in spite of all the mechanisms that we have put in place, we have still a tiny number, let's put it 1%, a tiny number of our soldiers, maybe even 0.5%, it's not there yet, a tiny number of our soldiers who are still indulging. But, my dear, this is human being. This is human behavior. Absolutely unacceptable. We are not in the business of condemning this. And the reason why MINUSCA has been able to convince member states that we are serious about this business is simply because we have made it absolutely enemy number one. We have been speaking out. We've been conducting sensitization effort. We've been holding patrols. We've been putting in place a system to control our own people. And all of this has helped indeed reduce drastically the number of sexual exploitation and abuse. And if there are any mismatch in the numbers that are on the public website, this can be simply corrected. We are not in the business of hiding anything. On the contrary, we want to go out. And our approach is very simple. In case of doubt, we side with the victims, because we want to make it a victim-centered approach. It is absolutely unacceptable that in a context of peacekeeping, in a place where people are really hurting, that any peacekeeper could find any excuse to indulge in such absolutely unacceptable behavior. So this is what is happening in MINUSCA today, and I want to take you on that road. I want absolutely, let's talk about those things. I want you to be part of that fight, and we want to make it clear that if human flesh is weak, unfortunately, the measures we put in place will sanction in the most severe manner. But you know also the business. The Secretary General, with all the powers he has, he cannot sanction any of the perpetrators, any of the peacekeepers who have committed this kind of abuse. it will be upon member states to deploy the national investigators, officers, and we work with them. We have now made it a requirement that those investigations will be taken together with our OIOS office so that we can partner with them and make sure that every violation will be properly investigated to establish the facts on the ground. So this is what we're doing, my dear. And we are not at all in the business of hiding anything, because it's simply unacceptable. I mean, I just heard, it just hurting.